breaking with tradition. Next is Bill Tonks. And Bill and I, like Dale, we've worked together for many years, and I've worked internationally with Bill. We've worked in Iran, Poland, all over, and wherever I go around the world and I introduce Bill and opportunities to collaborate, I always say that Bill is not only the UK's leading ventilation expert, but is actually, in my opinion, Europe's leading ventilation expert. So he's going to tell us about his experience with Zitron fans. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Kev. I hope you can all hear me okay. The microphone's a bit dodgy. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce Zitron. I first met Zitron in 1995. I was sent by AMCO ducting to go fix their duct in Somport rail tunnel, and there were these huge fans blowing air in this huge granite tunnel that they were dealing with, and they had frequency inverters even in them days, and that was the first introduction to Zitron. I learned it. And then I re-met them in 2004 for the Iran project, and then sent out in 2007, which is still going strong now. Thank you. The picture you see at the front we'll talk about later, but this is the most sense in ventilation. Thank you, Jane. Next slide. Okay, so you can see where Zitron's main factory is in Gijón in northern Spain. It's a beautiful part of the world, it really is. They got some great food and booze as well, and they make good fans too. Okay, so you can see where we are in England, and the little dots represent mines where Zitron fans are installed, and it shows London as well for some reason I'll speak about in a minute. As you can see, there is a branch in London now at Chiswick. And the reason they're in London, can we see the next slide, Jane? Thank you. Oh, okay, this is the Chiswick office. Very nice. Next slide, thank you. This is the reason we are in London now. There is a team of 5 engineers permanently based for the maintenance of the Crossrail tunnel ventilation system. You can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 stations. There are 48 fans, large fans. I'll show you some pictures in a second. You can see that each one of the stations has emergency and permanent ventilation designed within them. You can see the sketch on the top is rather disproportionate to the truth at the bottom. That's the vent sim model I did in 2014. The Canary Wharf run looks very short, but in fact it runs off the page to the bottom corner. There's a big gap, but there is at Stepney Green, there is a ventilation shaft as well. And I visited all of these during the commissioning in the last couple of years. And our guys, Jasiva is on now as well. He is based down there with 5 engineers as well. Thank you. Next slide. This is the vent sim model I did in 14. The guys had never seen, the tunneling guys had never seen mining ventilation software. They were amazed. And so we did this as part of the tender, and then won the tender afterwards. And thank you. Next slide, Jane. We have fans in all of the stations across London in the Crossrail. This is a horizontal one. I believe this is at Woolwich. Thank you. There's 3 side by side there. Yeah, thank you. That's fine. Next slide. And these are more examples of the vertical fans, which are more efficient and spatially more sensible. And the control systems are really rather elaborate as well, and all linked to a central control room. So we have 48 fans, each approximately 10 tons, ranging from 185 kilowatts up to 450 kilowatts motor power. And we've got the permanent team there to maintain these forever. Thank you, Jane. Before Zitron came to London, They were rather experienced with metro systems. They've installed fans in 30 metro systems around the world now, and in the region there's 2,000 fans running as we speak. The top right-hand one is Doha Metro, the bottom one is Madrid Metro, and the top left-hand one I've visited many times is Crossrail, Canary Wharf. If you want a nice story, guys, you see the three big outlets underneath the restaurant there. I was there when they commissioned the fans in the very beginning, and when they started them up, you should have seen the feathers and nests from all the pigeons blown across the wharf. They were all right, just blew them away, I mean, but they never came back. Thank you very much. Next shot. Thank you. So, as well as the people tunnels in London, there is the Thames Tideway as well. I was lucky enough to visit the one, I don't know if you can see the arrow there. Oh, it's gone missing, sorry, but it was the one near the Battersea Power Station, the one bottom middle. You can see the big yellow duct there. So Zitron have fans in containers that force air all the way along to these tunnel boring machines, and one of Zitron's colleagues installed the control system, top right-hand corner there, you can see as well. Another nice story. They were kind enough to take me down to the actual face of the tunneling machine, and you know, I talked to the chap who was driving it, and he showed me how the thing worked. Really quite incredible, with 12 huge hydraulic rams, and he was looking at almost like a periscope's crosshairs, and it was off to the right hand and then up a little bit, and it was 8 points along this way and 1 up. And I says, "Are you all right?" He says, "No." He says, "Over the next few weeks," he says, "or the next few days, I'm going to turn it a little bit, tighten the radius." He says, "We've gone off." I says, "Oh dear, that looks you know, quite radical." He says, "Yes, we're 8 millimeters to the east and 1 millimeter too high." Incredible. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you very much. So, as well as people tunnels and the Thames Tideway tunnels, we've been installing fans in the UK. The first ones we put in were in Aberpergum, I think probably 2010, which is a coal mine, Aberpergum coal mine, and there are 2 500 kilowatt fans in series. They make very high pressure, and they're FLP motors because they're underground in a coal mine. We have fans in 3 gypsum mines, each are 2 meter 90 kilowatt fans. We have 2 fans in parallel in a well-known salt mine in the UK, 315 kilowatts each, and they have jet fans there as well, which, if the tunnels are big enough, it pushes air around as well as auxiliary fans or main fans or booster fans would. They're just freestanding and they waft air around. There is a Portland stone mine that has a 2 meter fan. A Bath stone mine has a 1.4 meter fan, and a fluorspar mine has 2 56 kilowatt 1.6 meter diameter fans. So out of 22 mines in the country so far, we're in 8. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. There's another little part of England in the middle of the desert in Tabas in Iran. It was run by an English mining engineer, Richard Sneed, and it was designed by David Smith and Skanska, and Kev was involved as well. And this is a very large installation. It's still running now. It was commissioned in 2007. I was out there. The big blue tube is 5 meters diameter, and the fans I think are about 2.5 meters diameter each. And there's 3 pairs of 630 kilowatts. So it's designed for the next 20 years of life. And this building is designed to be earthquake proof, seismic resistant. It's more or less a concrete bunker and then a concrete shaft down into the drift. And the metal tubes sacrificial, if you like, if it shook to pieces, and the fans can move and then be reinstalled if ever there was an earthquake. Thank you. Next slide, Jane. This is an example of more modern concept in South Africa. We've got branches all over the world where we manufacture or we have technical teams, and this is the true sense of it. You saw some of these in the Crossrail thing. We found that fans, particularly in metal mines, you know, if it comes out straight out of a stope or a raise, or a shaft, as we would call them, often it used to come out, then turn 90 degrees, go through a fan, and then turn another 90 degrees and go up. And some of these sites I measured, not our companies, but other sites, were only about 45% site efficient electricity compared to air power. These are over 75% efficient now, because the air comes straight up, straight through the fan and straight out without any turning. And you can see the statistics there. Thank you. Next slide. Another vertical fan, manufactured in Australia, I believe. We have manufacturing teams there. There is a factory in Australia, and again, this is the more sensible way to go nowadays. If they need to change the fan, they just jack up the vase, which recovers pressure, and push a new fan underneath it and send the old one away for service. Thank you. Next slide. Again, another example of vertical fans. Thank you. Next slide. Another vertical fan. This is how ventilation is going now. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so this is the nerve center of it all. In Gihon, they have a factory with 250 workers. This factory used to serve the Asturian coal field. They got it all wrong in Spain. You will forgive me, Jose. Thank you. Your seams were vertical, and you gave them ladies' names for some reason. I don't know. Every seam had a lady's name, and your coal seams were totally wrong. They were all vertical seams. Rather strange. But your Zitron used to serve the entire industry with fans, winches, buckets, and other mining machinery. And Zitron now still manufactures 250 workers, and we still make fans. We also make winches and buckets as well. We've moved on now. If you want a set of blades, we've got every single set of blades in the stockyard, in the stores, and we can get them to you in a few weeks. They are aluminium billets, and we just dial in the blade dimension, and the CNC machine carves out a set of blades in 24 hours, and then we finish them. So this is the new way of storing blades. We carve out what shape you want. We've got robot welders. They're the best workers. They don't stop for cups of tea or anything. We have laser scanning for quality assessments for cast blades when they come in. We can measure to the micron with laser scanning. You can see the factory on the top right hand side. You can see the owner, Antonio, bottom corner, and you can see a screenshot from the air of the factory. Thank you. Next slide, Jane. Thank you. We have the biggest underground, well, it's the biggest, doesn't matter where it is, but it's underground, it's underneath the factory. It's the biggest test bed, fan test bed in the world. The Americans came from Ashray. We're going to Spain, we're going to look at this itsy bitsy little test site. And they said, Jesus, it's the biggest thing we've ever seen. But it passed all the American tests. It's hugely technical. You'll see some more pictures of it in a second. But we can test fans at over 5 meters diameter. Okay, next slide, thank you. So you can see a smaller fan on the left-hand side being winched up into the test plane. And these are tested very, very accurately, right through the whole range of duties. And on the right-hand side, you can see this is just probably the biggest fan ever made in the world. This is for a potash mine in Siberia. Perm, I believe. This fan is powered by a 9.5 megawatt motor, and it's over 5 meters diameter. And looking at the team of people there, my God is one of those. My goddess is one of those people in the shot there. Susanna is the brains behind all these guys. She's a CFD modeler and has designed all the blades for years, and continues to do so. This fan was incredibly efficient in forward and backward modes. If they wanted it in reverse and still totally efficient, the elaborate designs there just pull out the guide vanes and make it equally efficient backwards. Incredible. Thank you. Next shot. They also have nearby, in the valleys nearby, they work with TST, and they've installed a high temperature fan test bed, and they can blow high temperatures through this tunnel. This tunnel is 600 meters long. In the bottom right hand corner of the right hand shot, I don't know if you can see a small red dot. That's a lorry. So you can see how huge this tunnel is, and what they do is, and we must all go out there and visit this kind of stuff, particularly MRS rescue guys and all of you mines rescue people, and we must get out there and take a look. What they do is they put lorries in, or vehicles or whatever, and set fire to them and video what goes on inside. And so the rig on the left hand side there is a high temperature fan testing rig. Typically, I think I saw a test at 400 degrees centigrade for 2 hours, and now the latest, excuse me, and now the latest one, latest high test that they've done is actually 600 degrees for 2 hours. Just in case there's a fire in a metro or wherever, these fans keep running and get rid of the smoke so that people can get out. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so this is Zitron globally, 80 countries, 6 continents. We've factories in Australia, we've factories in Mexico, we've factories in Turkey, we've factories in South Africa, factories in the Netherlands, and in France, and offices in many other, in India. Sorry, thank you, ID. I'm sorry if you're watching. And yeah, we hope to serve the world, and we've got a footprint in the UK now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Dale, what was it you were saying about you'll not get a word in once it starts? Was that Bill or Carl?
Well, I was saying there were some similarities, to be fair.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what